You want to know who really inspires me? Buddy. Buddy is not just my role model, but most importantly, Buddy is my best friend. Well, his name really isn't Buddy. It's Tom. Tom is Peter Cavatier. But when I think of Buddy, I think of someone like Superman, Batman, or Captain America. At this point, you're probably thinking, why them? Those guys are superheroes, and you're just talking about your uncle. But there is something about Buddy you don't know. When Buddy was 16, he was diagnosed with a terrible disease entitled Crohn's and colitis. Now, most people don't know what that disease is. Here, I'll try to explain. It's a disease that messes with your stomach and intestines. Sometimes you can't eat, and you have to go to the hospital to get some of your intestines removed. Can you imagine being a teenager and having to worry about going to the bathroom after you eat because none of your food will stay in your stomach? It must have been awful. And the worst part was, I'm not a miracle worker. I couldn't do anything. But Buddy and I never let his disease bother our fun. We did everything together. Buddy's the person that got me into really liking cars. He's like the Justin Bieber of car world. Everyone that liked cars knew who Buddy was. I was really proud to be his niece. Buddy was my godfather, so it was actually pretty cool that we were so close. Buddy was a pretty tall guy. He was quite handsome too. He had short, dark brown hair and big brown eyes. He always wore a baseball cap, but that was okay because when I was 6, I did too. Buddy loved the game Go Fish. We would always play it over my grandparents' house after dinner. Thankfully, we ate dinner around noon at my grandparents' house, so Buddy and I had a lot of time to play. I beat him most of the time. That was our game, and everyone in our family knew it. The best part about Buddy was his cars. Now, I told you that Buddy was like the Justin Bieber of car world, but I never told you why. Buddy has a lot of cars. Well, at least a lot of car parts. He tries to build his own cars. My favorite is his Opal. Now, most people don't know what an Opal is. I'll try to explain. An Opal is like smaller than a Mustang, but it's bigger than a smart car. And the best part about Buddy's Opal was that it was bright orange, my favorite color. He has driven that car all over the country. He's even driven it to California and back. Buddy promised me that once I'm old enough, he'll help me build my own car. Buddy's the coolest best friend ever. He was my biggest role model and taught me everything. I didn't get to see him in the summer because Buddy volunteered at Camp Oasis, a camp for children who have Crohn's and colitis like him. I was always really sad when Buddy left. But when it came back, I was always so happy. Now, you might be sitting in your seats, all bored, because I'm talking about my uncle. Not anyone important. He didn't do anything amazing, but he changed my life forever. In September of 2011, Buddy was diagnosed with colon cancer. The doctors weren't too worried about it. Buddy was a fighter. He'd be okay. For the first 2 months, it wasn't too bad. We went back to life as usual, just waiting for directions from the doctors. Buddy still had his smile on his face. But I knew better. My best friend was in pain. And the worst part was, I couldn't do anything to help him. In late November of 2011, the doctors sent Buddy home and told us that there was nothing else they could do. The tumor was too deep in his intestines. In doctor talk, that means Buddy would die soon. It was hard to talk to Buddy when he came home. He wasn't how I was used to seeing him. Buddy was really skinny. Most of his hair was gone now, and not a trace of his goatee was left. He always had a dull look on his Buddy's legs were extremely big because he didn't use them to walk anymore, so all of his body water was in them. He couldn't really move or talk. I didn't talk to Buddy. I didn't play go fish with Buddy. I didn't tell Buddy how much better the penguins were than the flags. I just stood there and kept my mouth shut. You might think that this is going to be some amazing story, where when all was lost, Buddy got better, and everything was okay again. That God gave him a second chance to live. But that's not what happened. There was no recovery, no miracle, nothing. On December 7th, 1966, God sent my best friend into the world. On December 10th, 2011, 6 o'clock a.m., God took him away from me. I was told that morning in my basement around 8:20. I just sat there. I didn't cry. I didn't talk. I didn't move. But my parents' words didn't mean anything to me. He wasn't dead. He couldn't be. He was in his Opel out driving. I would go over to my grandparents' house, and his car would be parked out front, and I would go in and we'd play go fish, just like old times. After a while, it sunk in. I haven't been back to the cemetery to see Buddy yet. It probably will take a few more years before I'm able to go back. But could you blame me? Would you be able to go and stand somewhere where you know the closest person to you is right under the surface? This is not a story that teaches a lesson. This is not a story that will later be turned into a movie because something amazing happened in it. It was to let you know who Buddy was. When you hear his name now, you won't think of a pet. You'll think of a strong warrior who fought like many others. But most importantly, who changed my life and taught me to make every moment count.